So last night at the Republican presidential debate, Vivek Ramaswamy made some pretty large claims against Ukraine. And I thought, why don't we just fact check this to make sure that everything he said is correct or true? So I'm just going to play what Vivek said last night, and we'll go through each line by line. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Has Ukraine banned 11 opposition parties? Well, it hasn't banned them. Ukraine suspended 11 pro-Russia parties. Now, these parties were not really huge. They didn't hold a lot of power. Actually, looks like these parties were very small and they were very pro-Russia, although one of the parties banned came in second in the recent elections and currently holds 44 seats in the 450-seat Ukrainian parliament. So, yes, there are 11 political parties. They have not been banned. They have been suspended. They are pro-Russian, according to Ukraine, well, according to Zelenskyy, and one holds 10% of all seats in the Ukrainian parliament. So, suspended is the correct term, not banned. So slight lexicon change. I'll give Ramaswamy partial marks there. We'll keep it going. Okay. Wow. This is so interesting. So when you Google, has Ukraine consolidated state media into one arm, the first thing that comes up is it has consolidated all media into one state arm. Okay, so let's just say has state media. Let's just say. This is interesting. Citing martial law, Ukraine president signs decree to combine national TV channels into one platform. Zelenskyy signs a decree citing the importance of a unified information policy under martial law, his office said in a statement Sunday. Let's get rid of those ads. Ukrainian Zelenskyy combines all national TV channels to combat alleged misinformation. Zelenskyy announced an order combining all national TV channels, which consists mainly of information and/or information analytical programs, into a single platform. This means an end to privately owned Ukrainian media outlets in that country. Zelenskyy claims this measure is needed to combat alleged Russian misinformation and tell the truth about the war. So there's a statement there that the privately owned Ukrainian media outlets are somehow potentially purporting Russian misinformation and are not telling the truth about the war. So this is a real issue in Ukraine, the amount of support or lack thereof of Russia. It's the research that I'm finding is that some Ukrainians support Russia, the amount to which it's really unknown. 41, and I'll get into this in a second. Actually, let me get into this now. This is interesting. This was a poll done in July 2021. It shows that 41% of Ukrainians agree with Putin's one nation claim, but question was tweaked. So a striking 41% of Ukrainian respondents to a poll agreed with Russian President Putin's recent claim that Russians and Ukrainians are one nation and belong to the same historical and spiritual space. But again, this was pre-war. Post-war, this number dropped dramatically. But that just goes to show there clearly is a significant, substantial amount of Ukrainians who support Russia. And again, Ukraine suspending 11 pro-Russia political parties. Clearly, there are people who support Russia in Ukraine. Otherwise, those parties wouldn't even exist. Okay, let's get back to Ramaswamy and let's continue. So I'll give them partial marks there again. They have consolidated state media, but to some people's defense, it's that there are other forms of media perpetuating Russian propaganda. They definitely did consolidate state media there. Okay. Did the Ukraine actually do that? Did they suspend elections on the basis of, some of you may remember this, but back in September, the United States dropped funding for Ukraine. Interestingly enough, Congress abandoned the funding of Kiev to help avoid a government shutdown. So I'm assuming this is just a suspension, not a full, we're not funding you. Yeah, it says hold up at aid for Kiev is only temporary. So they've suspended funding. So slight tweak to Ramaswamy's point. I don't know if they're suspending elections because of government funding from the United States, but it's not clear to me whether or not the United States will continue. Let's just see. Ukraine's president rules out holding elections next spring and calls for unity and fight for Russia. So Zelenskyy says, now in wartime, when there are so many challenges, it is absolutely irresponsible to throw the topic of elections into society in a lighthearted and playful way. The ways of any politically divisive things must stop. This is a time for defense. This is a time of battle that determines the fate and stand of people, not the time of manipulations which only Russia expects from Ukraine. I believe now is not the right time for elections. Okay, but Ukrainian legislation bans elections during martial law that has been in place since Russia launched the invasion. So technically, Zelensky's within his right. Ukrainian legislation bans elections during martial law that has been in place since Russia launched its invasion. Okay, so if that's the case, Zelenskyy is within his right due to martial law. And again, it's a tweak to what Ramaswamy said. So they haven't banned elections because of U.S. funding. They've banned elections because of the current Russian invasion, because martial law is currently in place. So Ramaswamy takes the suspension of Ukrainian funding and links that to Ukraine's suspension of elections, and says that they're banning elections because of the U.S. withholding funds. It's a complete misrepresentation, and I would say that Ramaswamy fails on that point. Okay, so I tried to look this up and I couldn't find anything. There's not enough data out there to suggest in any way that Zelenskyy is a Nazi to Ramaswamy's claim. So I'm going to say F again for Ramaswamy on that, but I don't know enough. So I'm going to say F with an asterisk. For any presidential candidate to make such a claim means that he must know something. It's not that this is coming from nowhere. So I want to look into this more. This is a serious claim to make that he's a Nazi. So I don't know, but I'm going to assume that it's an F, because there must be significant data to suggest that. And after my, again, not my most in-depth research, but my research, it indicates that that's not the case. So F with an asterisk. Okay, so that's the last point that Ramaswamy makes before he goes on a tangent against the other candidates. So let's talk about those two regions. First, we'll talk about Luhansk. So Luhansk is, according to Wikipedia, my trusted source, Luhansk is an internationally unrecognized republic of Russia in the occupied parts of eastern Ukraine's Luhansk Oblast, with its capital in Luhansk. Okay, so it is not part of Ukraine. It is just unrecognized Republic of Russia. And I'm assuming that this is an area that Russia overtook and is now kind of sealed off. Okay, so recognition. The Luhansk People's Republic initially sought recognition as a sovereign state. Subsequently, okay, interesting. So the LPR initially sought recognition as a sovereign state following its declaration of independence in April 2014. So Ramaswamy is correct. Luhansk has declared itself independent as of April 2014. Subsequently, LPR willingly acceded to the Russian Federation as a Russian federal subject in September-October 2022, effectively ceasing to exist as a sovereign state in any capacity and revoking its status as such in the eyes of the international community. Again, more research is necessary, but it seems that Luhansk is completely separate. Okay, so I'll say yes to Luhansk, and Ramaswamy is correct there. Donetsk. Donetsk is an industrial city in Ukraine. So we're going to talk about Donetsk Oblast. It's an oblast in eastern Ukraine. Okay, so in 2014, parts of the oblast, or I'm assuming parts of the region, including Donetsk, came under control of Russian-backed separatists who declared the Donetsk People's Republic, leading to a war against government forces. The de facto administrative center was subsequently moved to Mariupol. During the 22 Russian invasion, the oblast again became the site of heavy fighting. Russia later declares the annexation of the entirety of the oblast as well as 3 other regions. Though the annexation remains internationally unrecognized and only about half of the oblast is under Russian military occupation. Okay, so UN passed a resolution calling on countries not to recognize what it described as an illegal annexation, demanding Russia to withdraw. Most nations have most nations have not recognized the annexation. As of the end of 2022, the oblast is divided roughly equally between opposing sides. Okay, so it's almost like a stalemate. So Russia basically goes in, but nobody's recognizing Russia's annexation of it. So officially, it's still under Ukraine. Okay, so I'm going to give Ramaswamy partial marks on Donetsk because it's clear that it's not totally under Russia's control, even though it seems that it is, or at least it's not recognized the way that Luhansk is. Luhansk seems to be recognized as not part of Ukraine. If the international community is condemning Russia for taking over Luhansk, they're definitely not making a statement that Luhansk is part of Ukraine. So partial marks for Ramaswamy. So overall, I would say that Ramaswamy has made some comments that are inflammatory, but some of his points are true. There is the consolidation of state-funded media. Political parties haven't been banned. They've been suspended. The claim that Zelenskyy is a Nazi is unsubstantiated based on my research, so I'll give an F with an asterisk. And partial marks for Donetsk and Luhansk. Luhansk is clearly not part of Ukraine. Donetsk is recognized internationally, is still part of Ukraine, although the annexation of Russia has not been formally recognized. So partial marks there. So on a couple of his points, he's correct, but we have to remember the phrasing in which he uses is not true. So perfect example is the funding piece. Yes, elections in Ukraine are suspended, but it's not on the basis of, they're not banned, and it's not on the basis of US funding. They're suspended because currently the country is under martial law, and it is within Zelensky's power to suspend elections as a result until martial law is lifted. Now, we can debate whether Ukraine should or should not be under martial law, but that's a separate discussion. So remember, Ramaswamy says elections are banned because of US funding. US funding is suspended because the US government was about to shut down. And it's also because the country in Ukraine is under martial law. So it's very important to get these words correct and hold our leaders to account because their words mean something. So I want to do this quick video just to do a fact check on what Ramaswamy mentioned. I think it's really important that more facts come out about Ukraine so that we can get a more balanced understanding of what's happening there. I hope this video resonated. I hope you liked it, and I will definitely catch you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.